Hello everybody, my name is Sam and I like making waifu or meta content, and I also stream on twitch.tv/Sam. And today I want to bring you a Eula guide because she is honestly one of my most favorite characters. And with that being said, I don't want to waste too much of your time. I want to make this guide as concise and simple as possible. So let's just get into it. Eula can perform up to 5 consecutive attacks. She has really good multipliers. She honestly has one of the best attack animations in the game, and that's just my opinion. If you want to be optimal, after her 4th hit, animation cancel it with either an elemental skill or a sprint. Now I'm going to tell you something that's special about Eula that no other character has, but Eula is the only character in this game that has jiggle physics on her glutes after she does her final attack animation. And take that however you want, I'm just telling you this because it's a guide and it's for respectful research purposes. Eula's elemental skill is a cryo attack that gets a stack of Grim Heart every time she does it. She can only have a max of 2, and each Grim Heart stack increases Eula's resistance to interruption and defense. You can tell how many stacks you have by looking above her head after she does an elemental skill. You really only want to do the hold attack after you have 2 stacks because it lowers the physical and cryo resistance of enemies, and also does a mini explosion once you unlock the Rolling Rhyme talent. After you unlock Wellspring of War Lust, this helps you do your combo that you need to optimize your elemental burst, because you can hold or you can press the elemental skill, and it doesn't matter what cooldown you have. Once you do use her burst, you're gonna reset it and you're gonna gain a stack of Grim Heart. So it's really useful leading up to using her elemental burst for as much damage as possible. Eula's elemental burst is one of the easiest nukes to set up. It's all about setting up physical resistance and buffs and trying to get as much stacks as possible. The only thing you have to worry about this elemental burst is that if you switch out of Eula preemptively, the Lightfall Sword will pop and explode. So what you gotta do is try to get as many hits in as possible in those 7 seconds while it is active on the field. So I want to show you the suggested rotation from the Eula mains Discord, and there's plenty of other variations of this, but for the most part, especially if you're F2P, you can only get around 13 to 14 stacks within this Eula's burst rotation. Let me go ahead and show you. You're going to switch into Eula, use her elemental skill, use elemental burst, do 4 normal attack sequences, and on the 4th one, you animation cancel it with a hold elemental skill, and you just do more normal attacks until your thing pops. And Eula's last passive talent is that when she crafts a talent material, she has a 10% chance to give you the double product. So if you think Eula likes you, then you go ahead and gamble on this and see how much she really likes you. Before I talk about Constellation, you already know that none of these are necessary. You don't need any of these to like freaking complete Genshin Impact. Eula C0, I lived that lifestyle for 2 weeks and it's pretty good, and that's all I want to say. C1 is pretty good. It gives you more physical damage every time you consume some Grim Heart stacks by holding her elemental skill. C2 is where I stop because basically her hold or her press elemental skill become the same amount of time. So instead of those 10 seconds, now you have 4 seconds. And it's mainly just to smooth out her gameplay and take advantage of Pale Flame. C3 if you want to increase your damage per screenshot. C4 definitely not necessary. It's really only good against boss enemies that have like a lot of HP. C5 is okay, I guess. C6, okay, now C6 is where you get into like the real Constellation. I think it's pretty much either C0 or C6. For the mega whales out there, C6 literally just makes you just have a bigger PP than the other people who don't have C6. You definitely don't need it to clear the content, and it really only makes Eula a whale's toy. So let me just go ahead and share some tips and tricks and playstyles of Eula. If you haven't figured out by now, Eula is probably the only 5-star hyper carry physical damage dealer that we have in the game. She's really fun, and some can say she's unga bunga because you just freaking me with big lady, big boobs, big butt. I just hit with a big sword and I freaking just destroy everything. Super conduct's not really that hard to set up. The only tricky thing about Eula is your positioning and the pain of missing critical hits with her Lightfall Sword or just anything in general, honestly. But if you're able to position yourself where you can like group up enemies and do all the Eula things you need to do, like lower physical resistance, Lightfall Sword range, if you're able to just do that casually or second nature without even thinking about it, then Eula just becomes a really easy character to play. And because she's a physical DPS, and if you have the right supports, she's honestly useful for any type of situation and any type of biz floor, except of course if they're all freaking spread out everywhere and you have to travel across the room. And just watch out for enemies like freaking stupid Mago Kenki who teleport and do all this BS, and they might freaking juke you. So now let's go ahead and move on to Eula artifacts. The good thing about Eula is that her artifacts are really easy to pick. It pretty much either comes down to 4-piece Pale Flame or 2-piece Pale Flame and 2-piece Bloodstained Chivalry. And if you're asking, Hyder-san, what if we're low AR? Like I told one of my students who plays Genshin Impact, why are you farming for artifacts below AR 45? Look at your character, look at your weapon, level them all up. Level as many characters, as many weapons as possible before you get to AR 45. So that way all your resin after AR 45, you can use it for artifacts, because artifacts are a pain in the butt to farm. And even if you get a 5-star, it doesn't mean it's a good 5-star. So just use artifacts from whatever you get in the open world. 2-piece Gladiator, 2-piece Berserker. It really doesn't matter until AR-45. Now, personally, I was set on 2-piece Pale Flame, 2-piece Bloodstained Chivalry, because honestly, guys, it's not worth your resin trying to freaking get a 4-piece Pale Flame. You really only need a 4-piece Pale Flame if you want to take advantage of Eula's maximum burst, or if you have C2 and you want to utilize the max potential of Eula. But lucky for you, I put myself through hell and I freaking used roughly around 1,000 plus resin. I don't even know. I think it was like 4 or 5 days worth of like non-stop resin refresh just to try to get a decent 4-piece Pale Flame set. And let me go ahead and show you the difference in my burst between a 4-piece Pale Flame set and a 2-piece Pale Flame, 2-piece Bloodstained Chivalry. So when doing these runs, I use 20% crit rate food only. If you see like a food buff right there next to my characters. And that's because I was tired of missing my stupid critical hits. Even at 73% with Eula, I was still missing critical hits, so that's that. And I might have missed a stack or two when doing her rotation, but that's okay. It's just to show you the general difference of a 4-piece Pale Flame versus a 2-piece Pale, 2-piece Bloodstained. Okay, so when building Eula, you want to go for a crit rate circlet or a crit damage circlet depending on your substats or your weapon. Physical damage bonus goblet, of course. Attack percent sand speed always. And for the substats, what you want to prioritize is either crit rate or crit damage depending on what you need, attack percent, and then energy recharge. A good range of energy recharge is probably like between 120 to 140, assuming you've gotten it from your substats of your artifacts. Now mine is 100% energy recharge. It's pretty low, but I would just use like Diona or some cryo battery in order to just make up that difference. Okay, so now that we've talked about artifacts, let's talk about weapons. And I'm gonna make this really easy for you. Skyrider Greatsword, best 3-star weapon that you can get for Eula. In case you don't have a 4-star weapon that's good enough for her, but this is only if you're low AR. For the 4-star weapons, if you want to sacrifice just a little bit of normal attack damage and want a little bit more burst damage, you can use the Luxurious Sea Lord or the Okomaru, depending if you have either one. Then the best 4-star weapons according to the Eula main Discord starts with the Serpent Spine first, then the Black Cliff Slasher second, followed by the Prototype Archaic, and then the Snow Tomb Star Silver. There's honestly not that much of a difference between the 4 weapons that I just mentioned. Serpent Spine of course takes money from the battle pass in order to get. The Black Cliff Slasher, it does take resources from the shop, and you don't need it because you can get Prototype Archaic and Snow Tomb Star Silver for free from the world whenever you want. For the 5-star weapons, honestly, any of them are good. The best one, of course, is the Song of Broken Pines, just because it gives you that extra normal attack speed and the buff. But as far as damage, the Wolf's Gravestone does really overpower the Song of Broken Pines, only though whenever the second buff is active. Other than that, the Song of Broken Pines will win every time. Skyward Pride is good just in case you need a little bit more energy recharge. The Unforged is good, especially if you're going for like a double Geo team. And that's pretty much it for the weapons. So with Eula teams, you need somebody to cause super conduct, which would be an electro character. Then you probably need a cryo battery just to help you with energy recharge and recovery from Eula, because that is one of her weaknesses. And then the 4th slot can be either another cryo unit to just battery her more, or some kind of healer or damage buffer to Eula, such as Xinyan or Bennett, unless you have C6 of course. As far as cryo batteries go, Diona is a really great option, especially with Sacrificial Bow. Then Kaya with a Sacrificial Sword can also help you battery Eula. And Rosara is also a great support / a little bit of a battery for Eula, especially if you have C6 to physical shred the enemies with her burst. So obviously Raiden Shogun is the best character to pair with Eula because of her Baleful Omen talent. I've already made a video on this team. It's one of my favorite Eula teams, and you can check that out on my YouTube. Good electro substitutes that you can use instead of Raiden Shogun is Beidou, of course. Her Stormbreaker talent is really good. Fish is also a great option because of Oz and because you can use Tenacity of Megalith with her, which will give Eula an attack percent buff. And she's also an LG for the end user, which will even buff Eula with more attack. Lisa is also another option because with her burst, you can lower the enemy's defense by 15%. Zhongli's shield, you already know why it's good. It can lower the physical resistance of enemies. Since Eula is a physical damage dealer, she's going to be up and close and personal with these enemies, and you will always get that resistance shred from Zhongli's shield. The last team you could go for is a double Geo team. The only thing is, if you're running double Geo Resonance, your 4th slot, if it's an electro character, you're going to be causing super conduct. But the issue is you don't have a crowd character to battery Eula, unless of course that electro character is Raiden Shogun. Then it could be pretty decent. And if you put a crowd character, then that means you don't have super conduct to help you shred the resistance from the enemies. Unless of course you have Zhongli, then you're already doing enough physical resistance shred with his shield and Eula's hold elemental skill. And that's pretty much the teams, guys. If you made it to this part of the video, guys, I want to say thank you guys so much. I'll be honest, I haven't been wanting to make guides for like almost 3 weeks now. Sometimes I think like, man, there's so many other people that make better guides than me. Why should I make a guide? Sometimes I'm like halfway through editing and I'm like, I don't want to finish this because I'm bad. Like I'm like my biggest own critique. But anyways, I can talk about that more on stream. So if you enjoyed it, I really appreciate it if you guys help me boost this video with like a like, subscribe, and a comment. It really does help out the video more than you think. Anyways, thanks for watching the video, guys. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting. If I messed up on something, let me know in the comments. I might have missed something. I'm not perfect. Only you guys are perfect. In my eyes, of course. Anyways, I love you all so much. And remember, waifu over meta. And I'll see you all in the next video.